Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Welcome to another video in my series, Stampin' Up! Scrapbooking. Today I will create a double page layout featuring Stampin' Up's Weekend Adventures collection. It's one of the new scrapbooking collections in the 2025-2026 annual catalog. Everything I use will be listed below along with my link to Stampin' Up. If you live in Canada and use the link, I will get a commission. If you have a local demonstrator, please support him or her. But if you don't and something catches your eye, thank you very, very much. Before jumping in, let's have a look at my jumping off point. It's one of the 8 sketches found on page 28 in the new catalog. My inspiration is this one, and my plan is to stretch it into a double page spread by stretching the mat to the left and adding more photos. One more thing, I'm going to be using a lot of tools. Some of them are current, others are retired. If you don't have what I'm using, I strongly encourage you to dig into your stash. Most of what I use can be replaced with something else. So let's get started. You're going to see first, I'm going to show you the collection I'm using, Weekend Adventures. I have the pattern paper pack with stickers and the coordinating two-tone solids that go with it. I also have the matching stamp set as well. And all of this is found on page 73 in the new catalog. The reason why I'm showing you this is there is another way you can buy this collection. I'm going to show you that in a moment. It's on page 19 in the catalog, and you can buy it in a workshop kit. Now, the workshop kit comes with pattern paper, solid paper, stickers, additional embellishments, and step-by-step instructions for creating 3 double-page spreads with measurements. I wanted to point that out because it depends how you like to shop, but there is an option, a workshop option. Now I'm going to clear all this to the side and we're going to look at what I prepared in advance. So I did prepare a frame style foundation page in advance with 6 papers. I gutted 4 of them. There is a tutorial on my channel where I explain how to do that. So that's going to be listed and linked below. I'm also showing you that I rounded the corners on that basic beige cardstock. That was a Creative Memories corner rounder. And I'm showing you the papers that make up my foundation page. So basically it's basic beige, old olive, and early espresso, and all of those were in the solid coordinating paper pack that went with this collection. Here are my pattern papers that I've selected, also the solids as well, along with the stickers. Now in a few moments I will show you, one of them is a wood grain paper. It doesn't belong to this Weekend Adventures collection, it comes from another one. Now I'm showing you a handful of photos. For many of them, I double matted them in the basic beige cardstock and that wood grain paper. For some of them, I haven't matted them yet because I'm thinking at this point I may or may not use a flip flap. That's that plastic pocket that I just showed you. It's a Stampin' Up! Product and it's an adhesive pocket. It's a way of adding extra photos on a layout, and I'll talk about that later on. I also showed you a handful of tools. I'll talk about those later on as well when I embellish my page. So now what I'm going to do is start cutting up my foundation page. I was just showing you that wood grain paper that I'm cutting up now. That comes from another Stampin' Up! Collection called Country Woods. I love that collection. I use it all the time. So I am cutting up papers in 3 different pattern papers, and what I'm creating here is that mat that you see on the sketch that's underneath the photos. Now on the sketch, it's one chunk of paper, and mine is going to be made up of multiple papers. I will put measurements on the screen for this a bit later on in the process. When I adhere them to the page, it will make more sense then, but I am changing that up a bit. So instead of one big mat, it's going to be a mat made with several papers. Now what you see me doing right now is inking up all of these pattern papers, and the ink I'm using is Pebble Path from Stampin' Up! I'm not going to make you watch all of this. I continue doing it off camera, and you're going to see when I come back, everything is all set. Now those long strips of pattern paper on the right, they do get trimmed down, but I don't know how long I want them at this point. That's why they are all 12 inches. I'm also showing you a border strip that I punched out with Old Olive two-tone cardstock, and I used a border maker system from Creative Memories with a tree border cartridge. Now this can be replaced with any border punch or even a straight strip of old olive paper or green cardstock. I just wanted to point that out. Again, look in your tools. If you don't have what I have, chances are you have something to replace it. Now what I'm going to do is get out my foundation page and kind of let you know how I plan to move forward with this. So basically the mat that you see on the sketch, that is going to be bumped up towards the left-hand side of the right page, and it's going to flow over onto the left page. And you can see how I'm doing this with the 4 papers, 3 being the papers with straight lines and one of them a border cut piece of paper with those trees. So I'm giving you an idea how I'm going to place my photos. Again, on the right-hand page, I'm more or less following the sketch, and on the left, I'm going to add 2 photos, and I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I'm going to use a photo flap. So now what I'm going to do, even though I don't know how long I want the papers to be on the right-hand side, I am going to adhere the strips on the left-hand page. You may have noticed as well, I decided to round the corners on that wood grain paper just towards the outer edge. I don't end up doing it at the bottom of that mat, just at the top. When I'm adhering this blue paper, I'm being very purposeful on the distance. I want that wood grain paper at the top to measure about 2.5 inches because I'm going to be using large format alphas, and I'm going to talk about that later on. My title's going to be really big there. And now what I'm going to do is place these photos on the right-hand page and just try to determine how long I want to cut these strips of paper. Basically, I want the photo on the right to exceed the photo mat, just like you see on the sketch. In the end, I think I'm overthinking it, so I just decide to cut the strips the same size as the papers on the left-hand page. You can see I went ahead and adhered them, and I also adhered my photos. I'm pointing out that photo at the bottom because it's kind of bothering me. The menus are at an angle and the photo looks crooked, but it's not. I have an option if I decide that's bothering me too much. Now I'm showing you a flip flap. This is basically an adhesive pocket, and it's a way of adding extra photos on a layout. I'm going to be adding 2 extra photos, and I'm going to be adhering it on top of a page protector. So it's kind of temporary right now. You can adhere it to the page as well if you choose. Basically, they come in a few different sizes. This one measures 6 by 4, and there's a white strip that you can peel off, and then you adhere it to the page. That becomes transparent there, and it's just a great fun way to add extra photos on the layout. Now when it flips up, you have to put your photo upside down on the flip side if you want it to look right side up when the pocket is open. For this one anyway, when the adhesive is at the top and it flips up. Now I'm going to show you my embellishment. So starting with the title, here is the word outdoor. I mentioned earlier I wanted to use large format alphas. I cut these out with an old retired die set from Stampin' Up called large letter framelits. I absolutely love them. I've had them for several years and I use them all the time. This one, of course, is retired. Stampin' Up has one that's a little bit larger than this. Mine measures 2 1/8 of an inch. The one I'm showing you right now, by the way, is the one I've used. But the one that Stampin' Up has now is a little bit larger than what I have, and it's called Party Alphabet Dies. I'm showing you that I backed this old olive two-tone cardstock with these flat adhesive sheets. This is another product from Stampin' Up, and basically I made the paper adhesive, ran it through my die cutting machine with my alphas, and out popped adhesive alphas. There's wax paper behind it right now, but I will peel it off when it comes time to adhering it to the page. I made some more adhesive alphas as well using this mini alpha die set. That's a current product from Stampin' Up. And I'm showing you that I did the same thing. I backed this Cajun Craze two-tone cardstock with those adhesive sheets, and then I punched myself out an entire alphabet, and they are all adhesive. I put mine on wax paper for this one. I also have my journaling done. So I did my journaling on the computer and then I used a die to punch it out. If you look at the sketch, there's journaling at the top and journaling at the bottom. So that's kind of what I want to mimic. And these are the dies that I use. They are called Nested Essential Dies from Stampin' Up. This is a current product. So I have my journaling. It's going to go over there somewhere. And in addition to that, I also have a bunch of other embellishments that I created. Now this is a foodie layout. I'm showing you the sticker sheet from this Weekend Adventures kit. There is a circle, square, and oval missing, and in those shapes were coffee mugs and a coffee pot. I basically fussy cut those out. I'm showing you I brought in some silver cutlery from my stash. I had cut that out with a spellbinder's die at one point. I'm showing you that I made myself a plate with some nesting circle dies, and I also made some placemats. Those are from an old retired stamp set called Stitched So Sweetly, I think. I often use it when I want to create a placemat. Now I'm showing you a bunch of leaves and sprigs. Now I cut these out with the Pretty Florals die set. It has stamps as well. I just used the standalone dies. It's a current one as well from the new 2025-2026 annual catalog. I also have these little log rounds. I stamped those out with this textured timber stamp set and fussy cut them. And I have some little adhesive neutral dots. So now what I want to do is start building my page. Oh, I forgot to show you this earlier. I have two blue strips of paper. If you look at the sketch, there is like a shelf underneath the photo on the right. That's what I'm going to be doing with those blue strips, but later on in the process. Right now, I am going to start working on the page on the left. So I showed you a sticker that says Adventure from the sticker sheet. I'm going to add that to my title. So it's going to be Outdoor Dining Adventure. And now what I want to do is create a cluster kind of hugging that corner on the bottom left of this page. Now my idea is I want to create kind of a place setting because this is a foodie layout. That's why I had a placemat there. However, when I'm looking at these log rounds, I'm thinking, maybe I'll make a placemat out of these log rounds. So I piled up 3 and now I'm putting my plate on top of it. It's not really looking like a place setting right now, but I move ahead anyway. I'm bringing in my cutlery, hoping that will make it work. I also have to keep in mind that my photo on this page, what's going to be visible at top, is different than the one that you see because that one's going to be hidden under a flip flap. So I place my cutlery. It ends up that my spoon gets slightly tucked underneath the photo, but I'm okay with that. And now what I'm going to do is just start adding a few leaves here. So I'm just tucking them in because I want this to be kind of outdoorsy. This is an outdoors restaurant. It's really rudimentary, actually. It's in a parking lot. So I'm tucking in the leaves, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing this because often when I build clusters, the leaves are the last thing to be tucked in. And I find if I spend too much time here, it's kind of a waste of time. I just like to get the bulk of the cluster done. And when I'm adhering all of the elements, it's then I will actually tuck in the leaves and sprigs, kind of to fill out the cluster. But I do put a few in because I want to have an idea of what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to jump over to the right page and I'm going to start by placing the journaling. So I'm tucking the top part behind that blue border. Now at the bottom, I really don't have room to put it directly underneath, so I stagger it to the right. And now what you see me doing is placing that blue strip of paper. Basically, I'm placing that there kind of instead of that banner that you see underneath the photo on that sketch. Anyway, I'm liking this, and the journaling is more or less following the placement on the sketch. Maybe the one at the bottom is a little bit more to the right, but the inspiration certainly came from the sketch. You can see I tucked in a little tree border just above the journaling at the bottom. I like that. I like how it reinforces that banner area on the sketch. And now what you see me doing is creating a little cluster on the top right corner of that photo. And basically I'm placing it in the kitty corner to the other cluster on the left-hand page. So I have tree rounds, some leaves, some sprigs, but all of that is smaller than the cluster on the opposite page. Now I'm going to move ahead and start adhering the cluster on the right. So I started with the journaling at the top. Now I'm coming in with the tree rounds and then the leaves. When I go to adhere the leaves, you're going to see me use an adhesive called Sticky Specs by Ecstasy Crafts. I lift the white paper and the yellow paper underneath is sticky, so with detailed die cuts, it picks up the adhesive. It is very messy and there is a learning curve, I found anyway, when using it, but it is very effective. I've been using it for many years. So once that's down, then what I am going to have to do, I think I haven't done it yet, is adhere that blue strip of paper. So I'm going to have to trim it down, and then what I will do is adhere it and have it kind of pass right underneath that photo. I'm not sure if you noticed, but that journaling, when it was tucked underneath that blue border, kind of popped out on top of that blue border, and I didn't like the look of it. So what you're going to see me do once I finish adhering that strip is just trim the top of that journaling box. Now I'm going to adhere it underneath, but the top part's not going to pop out from above that blue strip of paper, and I like it much better. And then what I will do is just adhere that little strip of trees like I had placed earlier. Again, I like the repetition of color there, and I like the idea that I'm kind of reinforcing that area almost like a mini embellishment cluster like shown on the sketch. So now what I'm doing is kind of looking at the two pages together, and I want that blue strip of paper to flow over onto the left. So what I'm going to do now is start adhering the cluster on the left-hand page. I will revisit the right-hand page later on, but I just want to get the bulk of my embellishments adhered at this point. So at this point, I am starting with the tree rounds here, and I do adhere them, and I think I might even adhere the plate. Anyway, I'm adhering here, but I'm forgetting that I want that blue strip of paper to kind of pass through underneath this cluster here. So at one point I have to lift it, there I go, and I will be adding that little blue strip of paper. I just trimmed it off. I'm not going to have it pass underneath the photo. And when I go to adhere it, I'm just measuring, making sure it's the same distance from the bottom as the rest of that blue strip of paper. Now I can continue with my cluster. So I have those 3 tree rounds. That's is supposed to be a placemat. I put my plate down. I'm tucking in that little coffee pot and the little coffee mug. I'm happy with that. Those are the pieces that I fussy cut from the sticker sheet. And now I'm coming in with that Sticky Specs tape again and adhering my cutlery down. Actually, at this point, I do end up getting glue on top of my cutlery, and I don't like it. You're going to see me get out a cloth trying to rub it off. Finally, I end up turning off my camera and fixing it. And you can see also off camera, I added a few leaves to that area. Now, what I'm going to do is start working on my title. So again, these are adhesive alphas because I backed them with those adhesive sheets, and now there's just like a wax paper behind it. So I just have to peel it off and adhere it to my foundation page. So I love this technique, and I find they adhere really nice and flat to the page. So I'm not going to make you watch all of it. I'm just showing you a few. I have my T-square out, but I'm more or less following along that blue strip of paper there. So you're going to see I come back in a minute and my entire title is all adhered, including the word dining and adventure. Adventure is popped up on foam adhesive. Now I'm coming in with a few finishing touches. I just adhered a little red heart. The color is Cajun Craze in the middle of that dinner plate. I really like how that looks. I wanted to repeat that color elsewhere on the page, so I found a little tab that says Having Fun, and I adhered that just beneath the photo on the right-hand side page. And I like that because, again, it kind of mimics that banner that you see on the sketch underneath that photo. I wanted that color in a third spot, so I found another sticker that says the word love. I put it on top of that other coffee mug that I had fussy cut from the sticker sheet, and I tucked it in the cluster just on the top right. And now what you see me doing is adding a few leaves and sprigs to each one of the clusters, but that's basically it. I'm pretty much at the end. What I will do is grab a stamp set. It's called Elements of Text. It is a current stamp set from Stampin' Up, and it has background stamps. So In this stamp set, there are a few different splatter stamps, and you can see I have some templates on some copy paper. I basically keep them in my stamp box, and before stamping, I kind of play around with placement on my page before I actually stamp my page. So at this point, I'm placing them in a few different spots, in 5 different spots around the page, just trying to decide where I want to stamp. There are 2 different models of splatter stamps, so I'm using both of them, placing them around the page, and then what I will do is use my Early Espresso ink, which is a Stampin' Up! Really dark brown, and that's what I will stamp it with. I start stamping, but I end up running out of battery, but pretty much I'm at the end here anyway. This is basically it. My layout is finished here. What I will end up doing off camera is continuing to ink those splatters. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. Have a great day, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.